It is interesting to find narratives in two ancient books, narratives that are quite similar. In fact, reading Livy's The History of Rome, I've found narratives that are so similar to narratives that are told in Herodotus' histories. And in fact, the similarities just blow my mind. I welcome you to my YouTube channel where I explore ancient texts, and ancient texts here I mean texts that have been around for thousands of years. I try to find interesting stories or tales in those texts. At the moment I'm going through the book From the Founding of the City by Titus Livy. It's not a book really, it's a collection of books, and these books were written about 2000 years ago, and they cover the history of Rome from around 750 BCE to 0 BCE or 0 AD, around the time that Livy passed on. If you've not subscribed, subscribe so that you don't miss any of the videos that I upload. As I've said, there are stories I'm finding in Livy's History of Rome that are so similar to stories that Herodotus tell. And I don't mean similar in that they are talking about the same events. No, I mean like they are talking about, they are just the same stories but with different characters and different settings. That's what, similar stories, almost 100% similar, but different characters and different settings. Now, I'm giving you two of those that I just come across in the chapter I'm exploring at the moment. Now, and I'm giving you like two pairs. Each story in each of these two pairs, when you just read by its own, it's not really remarkable. It's interesting narrative or story, but not quite remarkable. But once you find out an equivalent, or you come across an equivalent of it, or you remember, or you identify an equivalent of it in Herodotus' histories, then things become very interesting. Now, let me give you the first pair. Here is the first pair. During the reign of Lucius Tarquinius Superbus, or Junior, in Rome, he started a war with the city of the Gabii. Livy tells us the city of the Gabii. And he didn't win the war using conventional means. He decided to be deceitful in his strategy. And this is what he does. He sends one of his sons, a guy who went by the name Sextus. He sends Sextus to Gabii, and Sextus goes to Gabii and pretends that he's a refugee. He lies to the people of the Gabii that he's fallen out with his father, and his father is after his life and is looking for a place to hide. And they welcome him, they believe him, and soon he joins their soldiers and he starts going out doing raids, and he's very good at it, and the people start trusting him, that they started thinking that he's somebody who can be trusted, and slowly he's able to get his way into the leadership of the town. At some point they appoint him to be the commander. Basically, it's like he's in charge of the military and everything in the town. And at that time, the Gabii people realize that they have been conquered without fighting a battle. That's what happens. Now, let's go to histories. Now, in histories, there is a very similar story, but now the setting is different. What I've just talked about is a setting that happened in Rome, somewhere near Rome. Gabii was a town next, a neighbor of Rome. And and it was between Romans and the Gabii people. Now, there's a similar story in Herodotus, but now the setting is in Babylon. And at this point, the Persians are fighting the Babylonians, or they have come to conquer the Babylonians. Now, during this time, the person who is the king of Persia is Darius. Now, Darius comes to Babylon. He wants to conquer the Babylonians, but there is a problem. Babylon is a city that was built with huge walls, and these walls could not be compromised. That's what Herodotus kind of tells us. These walls were so strong and so tall that people could not jump them or do anything or compromise them in whichever way you can think. Now, Darius has come to Babylon. He wants to conquer the city, but he realizes the city strong walls, basically. Now, there's this guy who went by the name Zopyrus. Zopyrus was the son of Megabyzus, and Megabyzus was one of the guys who went to Susa and removed from power a group of people who used to be called the Magi and put Darius in power. Now, Zopyrus comes to Darius and he tells him, you see, I'm thinking we can't succeed compromising this wall, and we might end up not conquering Babylon. So he comes up with a plan. He tells Darius, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to Babylon. I'm going to pretend that I'm defective. And in fact, Zopyrus mutilates himself. He cuts his own nose and his ears, and he goes to the gates of Babylon. And the guards see him coming alone, and they talk to him. They're like, who are you? And he's like, I'm Zopyrus, I'm a Persian, I've fallen out with Darius because I'm trying to give him some advice. He doesn't want to follow my advice, and now he wants to to kill me basically, and that's why I've run away. And they welcome him in, and they are like, this guy has information that we need to have about the plans of the Persians. And in fact, he does tell them that the information I have about the Persians will help you win over the Persians, or beat this attack basically. That's kind of like similar thing that Sextus told the people of Gabii. Now, they welcome him in, they take him to the magistrates and to the assembly, and he tells them whatever he knows about Darius and the reasons why he fears for his life. And he tells them, yeah, I have information and I can help you. And they welcome him, and soon he joins the army of the Babylonians. And then he had agreed with Darius to send some inexperienced soldiers, and Darius sends like 2,000 or 1,000 of inexperienced soldiers. And Zopyrus leading the Babylonians, they clear this group of soldiers, and Darius sends another one and another one. I think like 3 times he's sending these inexperienced soldiers who are not well equipped, and Zopyrus leading the Babylonians is able to get rid of them. Now at this point, the Babylonians end up trusting him so much because they thought he had proven himself by leading Babylonians to beat Persians, and they end up giving him to be the commander of their army, and they give him the keys to their city. And now Darius has agreed. Before, Darius comes with the entire army, and the Babylonians trust that Zopyrus is going to protect them. Zopyrus opens the gates and Darius comes in. Now that's the first pair. Now let me give you the second pair. When Sextus again is in the Gabii town, he has all the control he needed. Now he wants to know what his father wanted him to do, and he sends a messenger to Rome. And this messenger goes to Rome, and he tells the king then, Lucius Tarquinius Superbus or Junior, that your son Sextus has sent me, and he wants to know what do you want him to do, because right now the people of Gabii trust him. And the king seems like he didn't trust this messenger. That's what Livy tells us. He takes him to the garden, and he starts hitting the tallest poppy heads. He started hitting and cutting the tallest poppy heads. And at the end of it, the messenger goes back to Gabii, and Sextus asks him, so what did my father tell you? And the messenger tells Sextus, your father is very weird. He didn't tell me anything really. He just took me to the garden, and he was cutting the tallest pop heads. But out of that story that the messenger told Sextus, Sextus is able to know what his father meant. It was an encrypted message basically, and the message was, get rid of the most influential and powerful people in town. And that's what he did. He bribed, he assassinated, he brought false charges against anybody he thought was very influential in the town. That happened, and Gabii before long did not have the strongest people it needed. Everybody was gone, and the people remaining could easily be conquered. Now let's come to Herodotus' histories. Now in Herodotus' histories, there is a similar story, but now this one is happening in Corinth and Miletus, 2 towns of the Greeks. Now there was this guy who went by the name Periander. Periander was a son of Cypselus. Cypselus was a tyrant of Corinth, and Periander took over when his father died. Now, Periander is now the tyrant of Corinth. And he's trying to figure out how to form a government that is going to last long, basically. And he sends a message to a king of the Miletus, a tyrant. He wasn't a king, he was a tyrant. He sends a message to a tyrant of Miletus who went by the name Thrasybulus. Now he sends this messenger asking him what mode of government was the best to set up. And the messenger goes and asks Thrasybulus this question. Now Thrasybulus, again, like Lucius Tarquinius Superbus, seemed like he didn't trust the messenger, and he takes the messenger again, just like the other story, to the garden, but this time around we are not talking about poppy heads, we are talking about corn, or maize as we call it here. So he takes this messenger to the cornfield, and he starts cutting the tallest and the healthiest of the corn plants, and he cuts them, and the messenger is just following him around and wondering, what is this guy doing? And he does that, and at the end of it, he tells the messenger to go back home. The messenger goes back to Periander, and Periander asks him, so what did Thrasybulus tell you? And he's like, that guy is a very weird guy. He didn't tell me anything really. He just took me to the garden, and he was cutting the tallest corn plants. That's what he did. But Periander got the message, just like Sextus got the message. Periander gets the message that he should get rid of the most influential people in the kingdom. And that's what Periander does. Periander was one of the most cruel people to lead Corinth. He got rid of anybody he thought was threat. He assassinated, he chased people away, took their property. Anybody he thought was a threat had to go, and that came from that message. So the two pairs are interesting. I guess you will agree with me that these are stories from two different books by two different historians, but they have the same narratives. And it's not that these two narratives are about the same events. They are of different events, different settings, different characters, but the same stories. I don't know how to explain that. Maybe this was an ancient way of sending messages, especially in regard to the one of cutting the tallest. But I'm trying to think again, how often did they need to have that kind of message sent across? I don't know. The other is maybe one of the two plagiarized the work of the other, or their sources did plagiarize, and most likely, of course, Herodotus lived before Livy. Anyway, I don't want to say that. I'm just thinking. Anyways, what we can say is that we have these stories in these two works that are the same or similar.